All right. Alien Romulus. It's the new Alien film, of course, directed by Fede Alvaraz, who's first time in the franchise, but he's previously directed the Evil Dead reboot remake thing from like about 10 years ago. He did Don't Breathe from like 2016, around then.
Did he do? There's two of them, right? Did he do both?
I think he only did the first one.
I haven't seen either one, and I kind of know the twist of the first one, which I think is very unfortunate.
Yeah.
But people like Don't Breathe, right?
Yeah, I think Don't Breathe is a pretty good fan. They're a big following to it.
And Evil Dead.
Yeah, I have seen the Evil Dead remake. I enjoy it because in lead up for Evil Dead Rise, I rewatched all of them, and I thought it was pretty good. It completely like takes itself very seriously, which is like very different from the Sam Raimi ones, but I think it kind of works just as a different twist on it. So, well,
the Fede Alvarez movie we have both seen is Alien Romulus. So we're gonna start off spoiler free, and then we'll dive into spoilers. But Alien Romulus, overall impressions, I really enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought I was going to. I was pleasantly surprised with the ideas brought to the table. I will say I have only seen Alien and Aliens. So I think that this movie probably benefited for me having not seen the other ones, because if some of those ideas come from the other ones, I got to experience them fresh in this movie that takes place between Alien and Aliens. I think there's enough cool ideas, not only just like that they bring up, but also ideas in terms of different set pieces that happen throughout the movie that spice up the formula enough, and they bring just enough heart to this that this movie works for me, and I had a solid time with it. I was very worried that they were just going to redo Alien 1 and then have more Aliens, a la Aliens, the sequel at the end, and there's just going to be xenomorphs, and that's it. And there's, it's intense, and here's a face hugger, and then it's implanted, and there's that in it, but it's more than that.
And I think I think that's part of that is like the trailer kind of gives that vibe. Like it looks like a very modern, just Alien 1.
Yeah, let's do Alien again.
Yeah. So I have seen all of the Alien movies. I rewatched them all prior to this. And last week,
favorite one is Alien versus Predator Requiem.
Yes, absolutely. I talked about all of them through AVP Requiem last week and What Are You Doing? And then since then I've rewatched Prometheus and Alien Covenant. And I have a lot of thoughts about those two movies I'll talk about in maybe a little bit later. But absolutely, I think watching all of those hindered my enjoyment of this movie.
Okay.
I think this movie is like fine. There are very good moments in this movie that I liked a lot. Some very, very good tense-filled moments. But all those moments are the moments that are original and not just an amalgamation. This movie is an amalgamation of like every single Alien movie.
Okay.
I would say, or at least the mainline ones, not counting Alien versus Predator stuff. There's I'm sure some of the stuff that you liked that we'll talk about is ripped from a different movie.
Okay.
and I think like for some that might work. It is very fan servicey. I talked about, it's not a 1-for-1, but I talked about one of the reasons why I was mixed on Deadpool and Wolverine is because I felt like I was trying to be pandered to for like getting all these references and everything. I kind of get the same vibe here. I don't think it's as egregious because I think it's less obvious that some of these things are references. But if you are a big fan of this franchise and you've seen them all, it's like, okay, I get it. You said the line, you're recreating the shot, you're bringing in this element from this other movie, kind of combining this stuff together. It felt like, I think one of the good things about all the other movies, AVP like taken away from, is that they all kind of have a distinct voice to it. The directors have like a distinct vision, good or bad. They bring in interesting elements, and I just felt like this it felt just like a combination of everything, didn't really have its own like voice to stand on personally. But yeah.
All right.
I'm going to come across as more negative in this review because Jimmy is going to be more positive, but I think it's like fine.
Yeah.
I would say.
I think a big factor in the Alien movies is the crew, right? So the crew, I think, is one of the big things that's not working for me overall.
Yeah. I don't agree with
There
that.
is So there's a what's his name? David Johnson, the actor, David or Daniel or something like that.
He's Andy the android.
David Johnson. Yeah, Andy the android. You find out very early on, so not really a twist or spoiler or anything.
I think he's great.
He is terrific. Yeah. I mean, you're watching this movie. His nuances, his mannerisms, the way he works with his voice. Mm-hmm. I think the whole idea, like a lot of the ideas with that character are really interesting.
Yeah.
I think he's the character that works the best for me.
Absolutely. He's like the most unique character in this, certainly.
Yes.
He's not, I mean, well, it's, in Prometheus and in Alien Covenant, there's some significant android characters, but this is completely different from like all the ones we've seen before. I like how, he is just kind of this rundown android that has a lot of issues, but, good intentions and everything, glitches out quite a bit. I think that's all very interesting.
Yes.
So.
I think that's really good. Kaylee Spaney, I think she's good. Obviously, she was in Civil War earlier this year.
Priscilla,
yeah. So did you see?
No, I haven't seen it
either yet. She's a Ripley kind of stand-in, right? I mean, she's not just that, but it kind of feels like that at times.
I think what works, I think her and Andy kind of go together for me because I think their dynamic is like the best part of the movie. I like how it kind of shifts over the course of the movie. I like how it seems very well realized early on. You just get a sense of how their history, like almost immediately. I think that's just all pretty well written and everything. Yes. And so I think that helps her quite a bit. But also, I mean, like, I don't know if we want to necessarily, because the trailers don't necessarily say why they end up going into space.
Yeah, we can avoid that for now.
But I think her motivation it makes a lot of sense. I think the kind of world she lives in is just disgusting and horrible. And like, I get why she's doing what she's doing. Yeah, so I enjoyed her.
Yeah, I do think, at least watching it the one time, I get a sense that there's not much to her character outside of this relationship. At least that we understand. Everything we kind of know about her is based on this relationship between her and Andy. And to be fair, I mean, Andy is like kind of the world to her at this. Like she calls him her brother. So like they feel like family. And that relationship is the core of this movie, because all the other characters I think are just
bland. They're
and
in danger.
Yeah, you get like this guy with the very thick, like young British accent where I'm like, I don't know what he was saying. I was like,
it was hard to tell.
If you are not from the United Kingdom, like especially if like English is not your native language.
Oh yeah.
Native English speaker. I'm like, I have no idea what that guy just said. And I don't think it's like a sound mixing thing really. No. It's just like, I cannot tell what this guy is saying. I had that same experience.
I think it's like a direction thing where they just needed to have him like enunciate better than he does. Cause it felt like he was like mumbling through his accent a lot of the time.
Well, yeah, and again, I felt some of that with like "Talk to Me" last year, where it's with the thick Australian accents. So maybe I don't know. Do we know where Fede? Do you know where Fede Alvaraz is from off the top of your head?
I don't.
No. Fede Alvaraz, he is from Uruguay. Cool.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I'm like, I just didn't know what that guy said. I do think I don't know if I was just tripping, but there is a moment really early on in the film where Kaylee Spaney is saying something like in a restaurant or a bar to Andy, and her lips did not match what she was saying. Did you see? I was like, is that an error with my screening?
I'm trying to think if it was that specific point. I feel like there were a couple points where the ADR was pretty obvious.
Because I'm usually not the one to notice it. Holden is, and I was like that. I'm going to hope it was an error with my screen, because I was like, that was not even close.
I'm not sure if I remember that exact instance, but I'm sure it was an ADR thing, because there were a couple other points I noticed it too. Like there was one point where it was also Kaylee Spaney, and it was like when she first meets up with like the group, and she's like talking and her lips are moving, just not saying what she's saying. So I think that was something that happened a few times.
Yeah. So ADR is dialogue recorded after the shooting and synced up with that. What does ADR literally stand for?
I looked this up a few weeks ago and I forgot.
Alternative dispute resolution.
No, that's
not right.
That's something else.
That's not right. Automated dialogue replacement.
There we go.
Automated. That doesn't really seem automated, but AI taking over everything. I tell you. No, I again, the rest of the crew. There's the pregnant one. Like
that's her character.
That's her character.
She's pregnant.
There's the one that gets face hugged.
Yeah, honestly, aside, so take out Andy and Rain as Kaylee Spaney's character's name. Take those two out. You have the pregnant one. You have the guy who's just mean, and those are their only two character traits. And then the other two characters just don't have any personality at all. I would say very bland cast. Which I mean, you just.
Well, I mean, one is kind of like the ringleader of the whole plan, and there's kind of like there's a romantic tension. I would say
kind
of a little bit.
Because the lead character is ex-boyfriend, I guess, of Rain. I didn't feel I felt like they wanted to play more into some sort of tension there, and it just never really reached anything.
So maybe in a previous script or something like that.
Something cut out, I guess. I don't know.
But I think like I said, I think there's enough fun, unique things that happen in this movie that are really creative. That works. Like you said, there's a lot of callbacks. There's a lot of just ripped lines. I think they did it a few too many times. It's like I've only seen the first two, and I'm like, okay, I know that was here's a reference, here's a reference, here's a reference, here's a reference. Some of them are more on the nose than others. But it's like, there's in Aliens, there's like the way they shoot the reveal of the big queen. It's like, okay, we're going to shoot this reveal like in a similar way. It's like, okay, I don't mind that one as much because that's more of just like a visual language that you're keeping throughout, keeping in continuity throughout the films. But when it's like, I'm going to say the same line that a similar character said in another movie.
I think my problem with some of those more subtle references, like visually, is it kind of goes back to me saying that this movie doesn't really have a visual language of its own, which I think the other movies really kind of like. Even between Alien and Aliens, I feel like Ridley Scott's vision, James Cameron's vision, visually are quite different from each other. Even though they take obviously plot and lore elements from each other, but then you have David Fincher's Alien 3, the guy who directed Alien Resurrection, whose name I can't remember. He's French, but
the guy who directed Amelie.
Guy who directed Amelie. We found that out last week. But yeah, they all have a very distinct visual language to it, and I feel like they feel like movies from their respective directors. Like Aliens feels like a James Cameron movie. Even Alien 3, which had a lot of meddling to it, is shot like what you would think an early David Fincher film would feel like. So I the subtler ones, like you mentioned, that Queen kind of shot reveal doesn't bother me as much, but it's still like I wish Fede Alvarez would try some. Just got completely new things here.
Maybe you're insinuating that he has too much reverence for the core movies.
Yeah. Well, and I also there's a couple things in here that I don't know how, like, if it's his decision or if it's a Disney decision, right? Because I mean, we talked about last week D23, and how tired we were of everything there that was just, rehashes of the same thing, Toy Story 5, that sort of thing. So Disney's no stranger to just wanting to, get your nostalgia blinders on and everything. And Fede Alvarez, I know he's a huge fan of Alien. It could be a lot of his choices, and that is what it is. But I'm sure some of it was also studio meddling. But it's hard to tell what's what.
Yes, when this movie excels when it's standing on its own, when it's doing something that's like, oh, this is new, this is different. Yes, here we go. And I enjoyed that, and so there was enough there for me to enjoy it, and I would say it was a kind of the rare case of I liked it the more it went on. At the beginning, I was like, I don't know about this one. Everybody's orphans, and it's so bad and terrible. That the company Waystar Royco, whatever the company is,
Wayland Yutani,
is just It's so horrible, and
I think in general, I probably
we've never seen the sun.
Yeah, that's right.
All our parents died in the mines.
I think in general, I liked the first
a district from the Hunger Games.
Yeah, it does have that vibe actually. And I think I liked in general the first chunk of this movie most because that's when it I think was most different in a lot of ways. Because I felt like later on was when they started really leaning in a lot of ways to like the lines and the shot recreations and just incorporating random weird elements from the old movies. I was like at the beginning, I'm like, okay, I'm into this story and everything. The cast isn't the most engaging for the most part, but a lot of the other things I really appreciated. So
I think there's going to be there is a very divisive element of this film.
Which I think is horrible.
I loved it.
Holden. Are you kidding me? I think if we're talking about the same thing.
Yes, we absolutely got to be. I was like, this is what the movie needed.
Are we talking about the same
thing?
They
have to be talking. I mean, what, like, I want to be very vague.
What section of the movie does this happen in?
Towards the end of the movie.
Okay, no, we're not talking about. No.
I know. I think.
Yeah. Okay. We're talking. I'm all right with that.
Okay,
stuff. And that is.
Are you talking about like a certain character? Is that what you're referring to?
I'm talking to a certain character.
Well, I mean, as a testament to this movie, like there's maybe multiple divisive things on it. Because I was thinking the most divisive thing was kind of something that happens, closer to the climax, whereas you're referring to a certain character inclusion. I am like, whatever with that. I'm like, did it need to be a character? Did it need to be this character? Like, whatever.
I'm like, I thought it looked bad. And I also am like, all right, I'll save it more for spoilers just because I don't want to give away what it is. But no, the element you're talking about, I think is fine. It is ripped from a different movie.
Yeah, I figured there's some reference to it, but
it's kind of ripped from whatever.
There's some, but it's still like
it's unique.
Pretty wild, right?
It is
and
weird.
There's going to be people who see this movie who go, "That's dumb."
Well, it's an element from a different movie that some people already don't like. So
yeah,
there's going to be people that don't like it.
So I'm excited to talk about.
We're talking very vague right here about things that we don't want to spoil, but I do want to say before we move on though, I think easily the best part for about this movie for me is like visually this movie I think just is real like in terms of like set design and art direction, I think it looks great. Mm-hmm. And I think Fede Alvaraz really he was really hammering home in marketing and the interviews I was saying about how he wanted to do everything he could practically.
Yes.
And I think you get that vibe in this movie. Obviously, there's CG. There's some more like wild elements that it would be incredibly hard to replicate, especially just with modern filmmaking. But I mean, face huggers. There were several times where it was just like clearly like an RC car on the ground that was a face hugger. But I thought it looked like awesome, just very in that way. And then the aliens, a lot of them are just in costumes like they used to be. Thought that all looked great. I thought, and then the sets too, just like the way the space station looks, it feels like real sets a lot of the time. I thought that was all great.
Yeah.
I liked it. And I like how, I'll talk about Prometheus and Alien Covenant later, but those movies, one of the more interesting, weird elements about it as how they're prequels, but the tech just looks way better.
It's like Star Wars prequel kind of effect.
And so I like how this goes back to how the tech in the original Alien movies
grimy 70s sci-fi.
Yeah. Just the computers look horrible.
Every function is a different button.
Yeah.
Just the keyboard looking at it like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, and that's also something that like when Alien Isolation first came out, people praised because that came out post those prequel movies and that went back to that style. And I think it just makes
that
didn't
come out post Covenant, did it?
Yeah. Oh wait, no, you're right. No, because Covenant was like 2017. Yeah. So it came out maybe pre-Covenant, but regardless,
I cannot believe Alien. I want to say 2018. I haven't seen Alien Covenant, but I cannot believe it's already been that long.
I know,
Isn't
right?
That crazy. But we are just two old farts here, Holden.
But I think like this like Alien 1 kind of tech style just makes this series more unique. Mm-hmm. So I think that's part of the reason why I enjoy it so much. It's part of the series identity.
Well, Holden, what are you gonna rate this movie then on a scale 1 to 10? 5 for you is average, so don't be alarmed if he goes with like a 5 or something.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be. I think like I'm at like a 6 actually, because
above average.
Yeah, above average. I think that there's enough I appreciate enough of the craft that went into this. I like obviously a lot of the technical elements. There's a couple like standout sequences in this that I think are really just sticking in my head that I'll remember probably way more than the rest of the movie as time goes on. But yeah, it was a good time. I think I'm not confident this would happen, but I would love to see a Fede Alvaraz Alien movie, a sequel to this one or whatever, that is able to stand on its own a little bit more, that at least not have to refer to the entire series, not just be burdened by all that stuff. Just be a sequel to this movie and do whatever you want. I don't know. Yeah. So I think 6 is I'm feeling for this.
All right, sweet. We're going to go on to spoilers. Holden, that's coming up right after this little jingle.
All right, Alien Romulus spoilers. Gosh, where to start? At the beginning, as always?
Let's start at the beginning. Yeah. Everybody's an orphan. Everybody's sad. We got to get off this planet.
Yeah.
I love when she's about to leave, and then that one lady's like, no, actually, like, add 5 years. I'm like, what's it to this lady? Like, why does she care?
Yeah, I just I think something this series has consistently done pretty well throughout all the entries is just show like this company is just like the worst company in the universe. Weyland-Yutani, just horrible things happening. Do anything for a quick buck. Just constantly wants this indentured servitude like stuff on this prison planet. I think that's all. I think this movie continues that pretty well. Although I guess very beginning there was that opening.
Yeah, you got the cold opening of, it turns out the xenomorph from Alien, the original, is not dead. It had like a cocoon or something that it was hanging out in space, and then they cut it out.
So I'm like, on one hand for that, I'm like, okay, I think it adds something interesting that like this alien, which is it's seen as this perfect organism. They say it in this movie a couple times. That it can just still survive out in space kind of by hibernating itself. That's kind of interesting. But also, I think without spoiling too much about like Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, since you haven't seen them, this just keeps hammering home the idea that everything Ellen Ripley does is like for naught. Like, every good thing that comes or that she does just... Yeah, it's
maybe
undone
just cheapens
in the next
it.
movie. Yeah, I think it kind of cheapens the kill at the end of that first movie a little bit,
especially since they cut this alien out and then it just goes on to kill them all or whatever.
And I don't think I think that the reason why they had to do that is because they for some reason wanted to set this in between the first 2 Alien movies. So you're kind of like, all right, well, in Aliens, they're not really fully aware of what the xenomorphs are yet, so we have to have some way that incorporate it, but obviously they don't want it to be a first encounter kind of thing. I think they should have just either had it set before Alien or just later in the timeline. I feel like it just makes it weirdly complicated and dumb that it's in this spot, but I don't know.
Yeah. So they're going to go and they're like, well, this planet stinks. So let's all go to that one planet that starts with a Y. It's like Ivara or something like that. Ivaga. Sounds like a drug. The side effects may include getting face hugged. So they're going to go and there's a derelict spaceship up there. They're going to somebody's going to rob it. It might as well be us to get that cryo fuel, that sweet, sweet cryo fuel.
In the cryopods.
So they can get the heck out of here because you need 9 years to the closest system, Evog.
And I think that's that whole setup. I think is interesting because it's not just like another going on a mission kind of thing. They are trying to escape, but they have to go to the derelict space station. They have no reason to think that there would be anything wrong on the station that's just decommissioned or whatever. They're not aware of any sort of bad things happening on there. So I like that whole setup.
Yeah, and they find the cryopods fine and all that. I was glad that there was not like some face hugger thing on just the cryopod, because that's what where I thought it was going, because they like send it over to the ship where the one girl who's just there to get face hugged is just hanging out.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they didn't just do that. Mm-hmm. They're going through. They need to get the cryo fuel.
Yeah.
And they go to that one area and I love the guy gets like insta frostbite on his finger. I feel like they should have just showed more of that. Like that thing should have just shattered off or something.
Well, I think this movie overall feels a bit like gorier than some of the other Alien movies. I think that's maybe Fede Alvarez's little contribution here. At the same time, there's in Prometheus and Alien Covenant, there's some pretty gnarly stuff there, but
and Aliens, I mean,
even Aliens.
Bishop just gets ripped.
That's
in half.
true.
I feel like that's gorier than anything that happens in this movie.
That's true. Well, yeah, but I think some of the kills in this are pretty fun.
Yeah. Although I don't think this movie is all that gory necessarily.
I think it has like some very gory and gross moments, but it's not like a constant thing.
Is it more? I mean, is it gorier than the Alien 1 where you get the chest bursting original scene and you get Ash, bludgeoned in half or whatever, and he's got his milky guts and beads coming out of him, and then they light him on fire.
Maybe
and
not.
they're dissecting the. I feel like this one's actually less gory than those first two.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
But still, no, they're going in, they get in the cryo fuel, and that was cool how like all the face huggers are kind of like vacuum sealed frozen meals from Factor or whatever. Yeah. They're coming in and they're getting melted and they're dropping into the water. Mm-hmm. Apparently those guys are fine in water.
Yeah, they can swim.
Just swim around, be fine. There's something more. There's something in the water.
There's some water. Some water. Yeah, I thought that whole sequence was pretty good. I thought that was one of the more unique parts of this movie, because you need to find a way to keep the face huggers scary and everything. Mm-hmm. And even though
and they just do the same thing, so it's like, how do you make it unique?
Yeah, so have them swimming around in the water. Yeah, I thought that was pretty good,
reminiscent of Aliens scene with Ripley, and the girl's name is Newt. In the lab with one or two face huggers. What is it? One or two?
I think it's two of them.
Two of them.
God, that seems tense.
So kind of similar to that, but not the only good face hugger scene in here. Also, you have the dramatic tension of Andy like bloop, 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 rebooting with the updated directive and updated chip or whatever they put in
so
his
he gets
head.
better security clearance, but on the flip side, he also gets an updated directive to work for the company.
Directive. Yeah. Oh man, that was a nitpick I have with this. I'm like, that's kind of, I love the whole upgrade idea. I think it makes sense. Like, it makes sense that he has a new prime directive. At the same time, we've already seen that. I'm like, we've already seen the AI be like, well, I'm actually prioritizing the company over your lives. Whereas I think you could have still had a lot of the tension if his prime directive was do what's best for Rain, because you have that whole sequence with the pregnant lady at the door, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, let me out of here, it's gonna kill me. And he's like, that's exactly what the alien wants us to do. We're not gonna do that because that will jeopardize this mission. Yeah. And I'm thinking, like, you could have that same argument if his prime directive is protecting Rain. Yeah. And I do think it's almost like a protective dog or something kind of idea. Just because, it's just different. But I can see why they did it. It does add another level of dramatic tension.
I didn't necessarily have a problem with it happening. I thought it was kind of an interesting little twist there, just because I thought it changed the dynamic between Rain and Andy a little bit in the middle of the movie in a way that she wasn't expecting. So I thought that was a nice little twist. My issue is more just with how it's resolved, and I don't, I'm not sure how else you would do it, because the thing that comes to mind that's cheesy is like, oh, he overcomes it because he has love for Rain or something. And that's kind of lame. But I think it's also kind of lame that she just takes the chip out and he's just fine.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I feel like there could have been a more interesting or way to solve that issue.
But yeah, props to David Johnson
Yeah.
in his acting there because he sold both kind of roles as Andy really well. And you know, another nitpick is like you couldn't have dad jokes that I haven't heard already. Like, you know, I feel like
I think there were a couple I had. I wasn't
dad
familiar
jokes. I don't think there was a single one that I had not heard already. I just felt like they were in the top
Jimmy's
30
well-versed in
responses.
dad
I
jokes.
am well versed.
He is a teacher, so
I'm like the father of dad jokes. I'm just kidding. I do not have any children, so I feel like I can't even.
Do you do dad jokes in your class?
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. So that was a kind of like I'm okay with it. I would have liked to have seen them figure out another way to add that dramatic tension without just doing something that was already in another movie, sort of thing. But I like the whole idea of the update and seeing the two different roles. Yeah, it was great. And he lives. I was like, this guy's going to die.
No, I thought it was like super obvious from the start that he was going to sacrifice himself for Rain. I was like, that's what's going to happen. And I honestly, that's how I thought that his character arc was going to finish. But no, he's still there.
Great line too when she's like, how could you do that after the whole door sequence and the pregnant lady gets taken by the xenomorph? She's like, how could you do that? He's like, oh, you mean leave someone? Because they were like planning on leaving him.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, dang. That cuts deep.
Yeah, it cuts deep. All right.
He was like, oh, wow. Just like, oh, you know, a little double standard here, huh, Rain? A little double standard. You're going to leave me, but I can't leave anybody. I'm a synthetic. Well, I prefer the term artificial person, actually.
Isn't that a line from Aliens?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's what Bishop says. Should we talk about Ian Holm?
Yeah.
As well, Rook. He's a different character.
Yeah. Okay.
Rook.
So that's the thing, right? To me, okay.
Why don't you just have a different person?
Have a different person. You know, like it's not like there's only one model of android in this universe. We've seen several. The CG on that face, especially when they first find him, I thought was rough.
It's wonky.
Yeah, I was like, this is like not much better than Jeff Bridges and Tron Legacy to me in terms of like. And granted, in that case, it was older, and also you had Jeff Bridges as a face model you could use, but I was like, it really doesn't look good. It was like his like mouth. It felt like it was like moving at a different speed to like the rest of his face.
It was an uncanny valley thing.
Yeah.
I'm curious to like if people didn't know that, and I don't know how you would, like if you didn't realize he was not actually acting in that because Ian Holm is no longer with us.
Well, I'm like I'm thinking like, what if you were to go into this movie? You know, it's been a while since the last Alien movie. You go into this as your first Alien movie, or like I'm pretty sure Fede Alvaraz even said like you don't need to see any other Alien movie before this one, which I don't know if
It's technically true.
Yeah, but yeah, if you go in and you don't know, anything about who Ash is or anything, and you just see this uncanny CG face, like, why is this here? Just have a normal person. So weird. I just think it's like, and he's in the movie too much.
That's where I was like, I just thought it was like, oh, he's in this scene and that's it. But then he just becomes a major player in the rest of the movie, and he keeps popping up on computer screens, which I think the computer screens didn't look as bad.
Yeah, and I part of that is because it's just blurry on the screens. But you get Lance Henriksen, just have him come back as a bishop equivalent or something. I mean, you named him after a different chess piece. Just have him be a different chess.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. Yeah, Rook
or Michael Fassbender. Just have him as a different android than he is in those movies. I don't just have, if you need to have a reference to an old one, have a person that's alive.
I would do it. I would be the
right. I would do it too if you want a new.
I can't tell you the odds, but you have my sympathies.
Yeah. I feel like he had like 2 or 3 just callback lines that were so unnecessary. It was just like he'd finish a scene and just say something from Alien 1 or something. I'm like, okay, great.
That I'm in the middle on that. It didn't offend me that he was in the movie. But I wasn't like, oh my gosh, it's Ian Holm. He's Ash. Whoa. This movie's blowing
Ash,
my
but he's a
mind.
different character, but also kind of the same character.
He's Ash Ketchum from Pokemon.
No way.
But again, and that's what you were thinking. I thought was the most divisive thing.
Yes, the reason I think that is because like that's the one thing I heard about before going into this movie. I managed to stay away from a lot of spoilers since I didn't see this until Sunday, and I'm chronically online, so I'm kind of surprised that I didn't see more about it. But I did hear people like, all right, there's kind of a weird CG person in this movie. It's very, very Grand Moff Tarkin-esque. I'm like, all right, let's see what this is. And then I got there. I'm like, yeah, there it is. Anal.
Whatever. Fine for me. I want to talk about two standout sequences for me, though, that I really enjoyed.
Sure.
And we'll do it just in chronological order. The first one being the face hugger sneak by sequence where they increase, the face huggers. How do they sense you? Okay, well, with Andy's new upgrade, he has the knowledge that, okay, they track you by sound and your heat signature, your heat internal temperature. Yeah. So they set the room to 99.8 or
98.6.
98.6 human FM. Mm-hmm. And they set it to that, and they try to be as quiet as possible.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you can't have any goosebumps or try not to sweat or panic or, try not to be a human being through all this. Just kind of slowly, calmly go through it. And that's a lot of fun because you just go around and, they're like,
well, and
a lot of good sound design. And all that.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That, especially in that sequence when they're just kind of like the facehuggers are kind of lounging about. That's when it was like most obvious they were like puppets and everything. And I was like, oh, that just looks so much fun.
Yeah,
they look. It reminded me of the older movies how they looked there. So
yeah, so I really enjoyed that scene. Although the one guy, the ex-boyfriend, which I was like, did they say they were I didn't necessarily catch on to that. I just thought there was like some tension between them.
I really only said that because it says this on Wikipedia.
That's Tyler. Yeah, Tyler takes that call from Kay, the pregnant lady. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, dude, like you're dead. Like I thought he was gonna take that thing and just chug it. Mm-hmm. Like, and then they would follow that voice.
Yeah.
But no, he's just taking a phone call. It's like when someone takes a call in the middle of a movie. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Stop it.
So weird. No, it was because I'm not sure. I just rewatched all the Alien movies. I don't remember if it's ever said that they like sense you by heat, but I mean it. I'm not.
They do not have
it.
eyes.
Yeah,
so it makes sense.
It makes sense. But yeah, then I liked how that also you like threw that flare later and they kind of swarmed that. I thought that was kind of fun.
A few of them did, yeah, but not all of them.
Not all of them.
A lot of closing doors, Indiana Jones-esque, sort of stuff. Oh, I didn't try to kill you. I perfectly mathed it all out so that you would escape and that none would get through.
Yep.
What? That guy is dead. I really like that scene. So that's my first one. And then the second one is obviously anti-gravity xenomorph acid.
That was
stuff.
That was fun. Awesome. Yeah, I liked that a lot. The one part of that gimmick that I was never really sold on that paid off in any meaningful way, at least that I can remember, was just like that it had to like turn on briefly occasionally.
Yeah.
Because that was like a thing when they first got onto the ship and the mean British guy
landed on his back or whatever.
Yeah. But then, like in that scene, I mean, I guess now that I say that, the threat was that it comes back on and the acid eats through the hole.
Yeah.
So I guess that's fine. It's kind of a silly gimmick that it just needs to turn.
Why does it necessarily have to do that?
Yeah. I felt like they didn't really explain that well, but in terms of tension, I guess it works.
Yeah, it's like an emergency fail-safe sort of thing for some reason.
Yeah.
Beware of xenomorph acid going through the hull.
I was going to say the sequence that I, for some reason, loved, even though I think the characters make really dumb decisions during it, is like when they bring the face hugged the pilot back on board and that whole like ship crashing sequence.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I thought that was like one of the more tense scenes of the movie. Characters do make dumb decisions there. That's whatever. I think that happens in some of the other Alien movies too, but there's like the soundtrack during a couple of these scenes is like literally just like rapid thumping, which I thought like worked really well with like the excellent sound design really kind of taking over there and just heightening the tension. I liked how just like the ship was just like crashing around on the ship, the station or whatever. Yeah, I liked that.
Yeah, she just dies on the gas pedal.
Yeah.
Trope.
And I thought also it was that chest bursting sequence was like different enough from the original because it was like way like more drawn out and slow. It just like seemed even more painful because it was like slowly coming out and everything.
That little X-ray thing.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, it was like when they found that, I'm like, all right. I thought that was like very silly when they first found it. She just finds it on board. Like, whoa, look at this. I'm like, wow, I wonder what they're gonna use that for later.
Whoa, you're wearing Batman underwear. Yeah, no, that was fun. I don't know if this happens in one of the other Alien movies, but I hope someone like they get it and they literally try, like they know what's happening and they try to get it out. Does that happen?
It's not exact.
Something like that.
Something like that does happen, and it is one of the best parts of that respective movie.
I was I do want to see one where it's like they actually know what's happening, or they have some sort of idea what's going on, and they try to do something about it before it's too late. Yeah. Yeah, getting face hugged though, not a good survival rate. I do like, they froze off the tail sort of idea. Although, like, if you freeze off the tail, like, I feel like there's enough going on there that you probably just freeze her neck and kill her anyway.
Yeah,
but whatever. It's a movie.
It's fine.
It's a movie. I can suspend my disbelief for that. The other part I was gonna say, the anti-gravity scene, like they have like the gun auto aim. So I'm like, okay, that explains why she would be so lethal with it.
Yeah, it's kind of silly, but I don't know. It's just a way for them to cover a plot hole, really.
I was a little confused at how did this one alien turn into all these aliens? I must have because it's not a queen, so I don't know if they did like DNA reconstruction and like artificially created them or something. But I was a little bit confused at how did this one alien from the original movie turn into this whole ship.
Yeah, I think the whole idea is that they somehow get DNA from it and recreate face huggers, and so then the aliens
finds a way.
Yeah, all the aliens they find later in the movie, I think, are just like the crew that were bursted and whatever. So it is. They don't really explain that well. One thing that they brought back it's probably the one bit of fan service that worked for me was the black goop thing.
Yeah.
Which is
I figured that was from Prometheus.
That's from Prometheus and Alien.
They say like
Covenant.
They
call it the Prometheus. I'm like, oh, that did make me roll my eyes. But like
they call it a song of ice and fire.
It's just like those movies feel so much different than the other Alien movies, but they never really got to fully finish that prequel series or anything. So I was just like, oh, that's kind of fun that they brought this back here. And they used it in, I think, ways that are consistent with how it's used in that original movie. They called it a pathogen, which it is technically a pathogen, they say in the prequel movies. But yeah, I'll admit, that was the one fan servicey thing that worked on me.
Yeah.
And also that because those were like the most fresh in my brain too. So
yes, I'm like, okay, there's got to be some payoff to this lady being pregnant. Then, it's just extra sad because she dies.
Well, initially I'm thinking, all right, she's going to be the one that gets face hugged. And then it's just like joke is that she's pregnant and then she gets chest bursted. Right. That's what I was thinking. The joke. Well, I thought
that would be like, if she does get face hugged, what would happen? Like, like the fetus grabs the embryo.
Yeah.
Or it like combines or something.
Yeah, but so then what ends up happening is she injects
you're gonna die soon. If only there's like something that
some miracle drug.
Yeah. Well, it worked on rats for the first half of the video that we didn't watch the rest of. So there's a 25% chance that it works with you, and I'm not sure if that's how science works, but go for it. Injects it in herself, starts freaking out and having a baby, and it's like one of the egg things. Oh my gosh, it looks like an alien,
but it's
a baby, and then it slips into the hall.
So okay, this is
a Prometheus creator, what is this like? How similar is this to some other movie in the Alien franchise?
Okay, so this creature is most similar to Alien Resurrection.
Okay.
One of the big, I guess, spoilers for Alien Resurrection, but it's an old movie. I knew about it going in. The big kind of creature at the end of this movie it's an alien human hybrid, but it's born from the alien queen. So in that one, it seemed to take more alien kind of characteristics, but still had like very like human personality and like certain personality traits and physical traits too. And so the twist is that this time it's born from a human, so it looks visually more human than that one did. I think that's what they're going for. So yeah, it's kind of something that's already established, but also it looks like the engineers from Prometheus, which are the whole thing in Prometheus is they're trying to find the people that made humans. Those are the people that they think made humans. That's also the thing that's in the big chair in Alien 1.
Okay.
That's supposed to be an engineer. So the face is very white and bald and it kind of has the dark eyes like an engineer does in those movies. And I assume that's because of the black goop, which I think is made from DNA of the engineers. So it kind of brings in this hodgepodge of things. I thought the design was fun. I honestly kind of wish it was weirder almost, because it is like weird, but I was like,
it could have gone weirder.
Yeah, it could have gone weirder,
more deformed.
Because I think like a lot of people like joke about Alien Resurrection, how the alien human hybrid looks, because it's like really ugly. But I think that like works in the movie's favor because it just looks so bizarre in that movie. And I think in this one, it like, yeah, it's creepy and weird, and it is different for this movie, but it's also like, it kind of looks like a person with like an alien tail, like kind of thing. I feel like they could have gone a little farther with it. But
looks like they could have been like cousins to the barbarian lady.
Yeah.
I loved it. I was like, yes, this movie needed to get weird, and it did, and that was great. I just was, you could almost feel like what the heck is this in the theater, like, and that's what I loved about it. It felt like a big swing.
Sure.
Of the Alien and Aliens that I've seen, there's always like the fight's never over when the climax happens. There's always like there's another climax,
fourth act kind of thing going on.
There's like two climaxes, and I just was like, there's one more thing's gonna happen. There's got to be something with this pregnant lady, and yes, just delivered, and just that weird looking person. Just what the heck is going on? Love that. Just bizarre.
I would say, I think another minor gripe I have with that scene, even though I still overall think it's just a fun, weird bit, is that I just feel like it wasn't around that long. Like I feel like even in Alien 1, that whole kind of fourth act lasted a bit longer. But even if it was about the same length, it's still the alien you've been facing throughout the rest of the movie. This is a whole new creature that I feel like could have gotten a little bit more time in the movie, just hanging or like wandering around this little ship. But
yeah, almost like if you take out the xenomorphs even earlier, like at the end of the second act, and it's like you feel like you're going, and then there's a whole, and like most of the crew actually survives the xenomorph maybe, and then you have this crazy stuff happen. But I enjoyed it quite a bit, and overall I like this. I think again from a technical standpoint, the production design, the use of practical effects, sound design, score, performances all around, and overall direction. I think a lot of technically very well done on a lot of fronts. Yeah. Holden, you played Alien Isolation. Yeah. I heard that like the save points for Alien Isolation, like there's a certain computer or something. Maybe
I saw something about that afterwards, and I did not. It's been a while since I played the game. I didn't notice it while watching the movie. I should, if I can find a screenshot of that someone took of the movie or something, maybe I'll recognize it. But I didn't notice it in the.
But it's like when that happens in the game, it's like something's about to happen. So apparently, Fede Alvaraz really likes the game.
Oh, okay.
Put these in like for places like about right before something was about to happen.
Were there multiple in the movie?
Apparently, a couple at least. That's what my understanding. I have not played Alien Isolation.
That's a fun little Easter egg if I was aware of it.
But yeah, let's see. Other things that I was just gonna critique. critique anything? No, I don't think so. I got talked about the auto aim gun. And then I was just gonna say, like, when they're on the planet, the mining planet, they have like their little community. The bar sign, there's like bar. It's like a neon light, is just identical to the one that's in Aliens.
That's
when they go and the
interesting catch from you. I never would have noticed that,
because when I was watching it, I'm like, is this the same place as the other one? But apparently not.
Yeah. One thing we didn't talk about that was a little interesting thing they added here was like the way that the adult aliens are like literally birthed out of the wall. That thing, that's like not anything that was in any of the other movies, and it's kind of an interesting like little thing to add, because I mean obviously it adds to all the sexual imagery and whatever pretty obviously, but
was it being birthed, or was it just hanging out in there?
I think it was like kind of like a cocoon thing. That's the vibe I got, because it was I mean, right before they got to it, they found like the little chest burster skin that it had kind of crawled out of. Yeah. So I just kind of gathered that it went up and, you know, wrapped itself up in that or whatever. And so if that is supposed to be like a new stage in the transformation, because
maybe it's like an accelerator, because they do seem like they grow really fast.
Yeah. Well, and like in the other movies, it's never been like super clear, I don't think. And like the chest burster to full growth, like the space in between there, like what happens. I think most people just kind of assumed it grew several times, and that would have worked just as an idea. But if this explains maybe a middle little stage we weren't aware of, it's interesting.
Yeah, that's the best thing about xenomorphs. That's why they're perfect. They hardly any time in adolescence.
Yeah, no teenage years for them. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's one thing. Perfect organism. They have to like parasite themselves onto someone else in order to reproduce. I'm like, are you really perfect if you have that hard of a time reproducing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm okay moving past that. But no, my more thing with that, like being a perfect organism, is like they die very easily by gunfire.
Yeah, well, they have like their like exploding rounds or something, like at least in Aliens.
I'm not sure. I don't remember if they say that in this. The pulse rounds, I guess. But yeah, I mean the acid blood has always been a good detail that I've loved about them. That just makes as like a perfect defense mechanism.
The mean British guy gets acid to death.
Yeah, he gets like stabbed and then acided. I was like, I don't like him very much.
Acided. That's the technical term.
Acided.
Yeah, he just hates AI. Or the cyborgs, androids, because they like made a call to like save 12 people and let 3 die, and that one of them was his mom. And that's like a big thing for like the first 30 minutes, and then it's just not a thing, and he dies.
Well, I like
okay,
yeah, he doesn't like get really saved by Andy, and I mean, I guess Andy lets him out of the face hugger room, but no, I feel like they leaned into that too much. It made that guy just so unlikable. Like, fine, have one or two offhand comments. It was like every time he talked, he was just like crapping on Andy and like making fun of him and threatening him, and like, come on,
just being over the top antagonistic.
Yeah, we didn't need all that.
Yeah,
made him very unlikable.
Glad he died. Yeah, horribly. A couple other things I just thought of. I love the shot where Andy grabs the face hugger, by the tail when he gets his upgrade. That was a great moment. And also, this is Alien Romulus and Remus. Are you familiar with Romulus and Remus at all?
They had like a description up on the screen that I did not read.
Okay, well, Romulus and Remus is like going to the mythical founding of Rome. It's these two brothers that are raised by like this she-wolf, and they're literally like suckling the teats of this she-wolf sort of thing.
Yeah.
So at the end of the movie, like the tall Voldemort is going down, and like literally it seems like he's going to be suckling his human mother, which was a great, just messed up visual that caters to my interests, I guess. Just weird stuff that makes you uncomfortable and yes. Just weird stuff that makes you uncomfortable and like you have to like laugh.
Yeah.
Is one of my favorite kind of emotions to feel during a movie. So that
it was a
accomplished
pretty
it for
messed
me.
up sequence. So
Yeah.
I did like that.
Otherwise, though, they get away. Yay!
Andy says, "Get away from her, you B word."
Yeah, which is that actually worked for me a little bit.
That was the worst one for me. I thought I was like, because
of the way he delivered it, it worked for me better than the other ones. I didn't need it. You could have left it out, but I was like, okay, that was.
It was just very eye rolly. Honestly, the delivery might have been the part I disliked most about it. Honestly, because it was just like he just says, "Get away from her," and I'm like, and I think that just could have like worked. Like that's fine, and then adds the UB word like afterwards. I'm like, okay, yeah. I've seen Aliens. I have seen that movie,
but he hasn't because it hasn't happened.
Yeah,
yet.
so it's crazy.
But they get away. They're going to Trivago, wherever,
Trivago,
whatever this place is called,
Ivaga.
And they're in a cryo chamber, and we're just floating through space. It's kind of like the end of Alien 1, where she's just floating through space, but she's just going in the middle of nowhere. She's they
have a destination.
Rain's at least going somewhere, but doesn't know if she's gonna make it.
I can't wait for them to show up on the planet and they have a facehugger on board.
Yeah.
And we have a big planet-wide outbreak.
Or she gets to a planet and they're like, hey, you can get a lot of money. You just got to go to this place where there's a facehugger.
Oh, yeah.
And she's going to be like Ripley in Aliens, or she's like, you don't understand. You don't get it. They're going to kill us all. One thing, killed all my friends. And we're sad orphans. I saw the sun for the first time yesterday. Another random note that came to my head is like, just like Alien and Aliens, there's like a countdown to like some impending doom that's just constant. It's like, oh, this is going to happen in 10 minutes, or this is going to happen in 5 minutes. And there's Mother.
Happens
just
multiple times in this movie.
And really a lot in just the Alien movies in general. But just another kind of bit of the formula, that Alien recipe that they threw into the melting pot that is this movie. But I liked it. I had fun with it. And I think I exhausted all my things.
Yeah. No, I think I am also done. So,
all right. Alien Romulus. Let us know what you thought down in the comments. Who knows? Maybe give us several likes, comment. We maybe, we might be doing the Channing Tatum movie next week, the one that's directed by what's her name?
Zoe Kravitz.
But maybe we're revisiting the other Alien movies and doing a full-fledged
We have not decided.
ranking. We haven't decided. So if there's a lot of good feedback on this one, maybe we'll do some more Alien stuff. So there we go.